Hello, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thank you for joining us. We're continuing with some pre-town meeting day coverage. Town meeting day not far away, coming up on Tuesday, March 2nd. A number of contests around Franklin County, and I can't imagine any place is more active than the town of Swanton, which has a 5-member select board, 4 seats up, and there are 4 contests for those 4 seats. And happy to have 2 of the candidates running for a 2-year term, Heather Buczkowski and James Guilmette, who's the chairman of the board. And again, it'll be kind of a 2-part show. And our third guest, I should quickly note here, Elizabeth Nance, the Economic Development Coordinator for the town of Swanton. So again, kind of a 2-part show. In the before the pandemic kind of got us off the rails, or got me off the rails a bit, I would typically interview Swanton village and town officials quarterly. And it's been a long time. Finally tracked down the village people a couple weeks ago, and we have, so again, some of the show will be devoted to kind of generally Swanton town issues, but as it happens, again, Mr. Guilmette and Ms. Buczkowski are running against each other, so we'll get into their contests as well. So again, kind of a 2-part show. And Elizabeth, I don't mean to ignore your candidacy. Again, you're running for re-election as a town grand juror.
Yeah, and I'm running unopposed.
And running unopposed. Yes. Lucky you, I guess. Huh?
Yes.
Tell us about, what does that job entail? Is there some work involved with that job?
No, it's
No.
just basically a position that is on the books that needed to be filled, and we were kind of tired of seeing it say vacant, and they said
Yeah.
that you don't have much to do, so I said,
Is there
I'll take it.
is there anything to do?
No.
No,
Not
of course,
for
a high bailiff is another one of those kind of strange jobs. I guess a high bailiff comes into play apparently if the sheriff needs to be arrested or thrown out of office or something. Which,
And I think they've actually there are a couple of positions that
Yeah.
they've finally taken off the books.
Right.
And probably grandeur at some point will go the same
Okay.
way,
But again, Economic Development Coordinator, you also work a couple of days for the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation. Executive Director, of course, Tim Smith, the Mayor of St. Albans.
Yeah.
And let's start with yourself with the pandemic. Boy, just about a year old now. How much of an impact has that had on Swanton? Has that made your job more difficult, easier, or how do you see that?
different, I guess, is the easiest answer. Franklin County as a whole has been hurt less than the rest of the state,
Yeah.
which we were looking at some unemployment numbers yesterday, and the unemployment rate in Vermont is actually at 3.7%, I think it is, which sounds great, but how many people have come out of
Right.
the employment system?
And who aren't just even looking for work
Right,
anymore
they're not
at this point.
actively looking, and the unemployment system right now doesn't require you to, because there's a lack of certain jobs, so you're not required to. It's interesting because there's a lot of money out there from the Paycheck Protection Program, the CARES Act 1, and we're calling it CARES Act 2. I don't even know the official name of the second round of funds that came out in December,
Yeah.
or that was signed in December. So there's money out there, and the state, between the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, the Department of Taxation, they've run some programs. I think the issue is getting to be, people are a little bit of fatigue. There's so many programs with so many acronyms, all looking for so much different information,
Yeah.
that they kind of throw their hands up and say, I'm tired. I want to run my business. It's just difficult for them to know what money is out there. It's hard for us. I mean, at FCIDC, we're trying to keep up with the different programs, and then the SBA has some. It's just a lot of information, so keeping track of it and getting it to employers is the hardest part.
Right. How do you think the state, are you reasonably impressed with how the states, of course, they've got their fiasco. In fact, I've gotten a couple of 1099-Gs in the mail or
Right.
to my address the last couple of days, but very tough situation in the last week or two.
It's been interesting. We actually, through FCIDC, we worked the grant program. I was reviewing applications, and we learned a lot, that there are a lot of businesses who they may know how to do construction or cut hair or do certain things, but when it comes to the business part of it, what is a P&L? So those bits, we gave them a lot of opportunities to try to get it right in order for them to get funding. But it showed us where there are some gaps that we're looking at doing some financial literacy webinars. And the other thing that we're looking at, and I think there's a huge opportunity, is e-commerce. We know that there are issues around retail. What will happen when things get back to whatever the normal is going to look like? People are very used to shopping out of their homes. I do way too much of it, I'm not going to lie, because it's just convenient. And if you don't want to go to a store for whatever reason, you're shopping online. So what are those opportunities for businesses? And I think our main focus now is how do we help businesses get through the winter? And then how do we help them prepare for that new normal, whatever it looks like, trying to anticipate what retail and what the restaurant and lodging businesses will look like once things open back up.
Yeah. Let's give our two select board members and candidates. Heather, let's start with you. I guess you're part of a kind of a historic Swanton select board. I mean, for the first time ever, 2 women on the board right now, I think, for the first time, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, I think you might be correct about that. And
Interesting.
of course, we have 3 women running at the same time as well, which is also historical.
Right. Give us some background for folks who don't know you so well. Again, you're a member of the select board now. Tell us about yourself and why you decided to, hopefully, and from your point of view, stay on the board.
Okay, my name's, well, you know what my name is, and I've been recording the select board for several years, and I went to a leadership convention and learned all about leaders in the community, and I, at that point, decided that I would run. I ran against Mark Rushlow, and you actually interviewed us. And that year I lost by 13 votes, but I was still
13 votes.
passionate about the project, and I wanted to run again. So I ran last year, and I was awarded with the seat for 1 year, and I've really had a great time learning more about the select board and how it all works. And it's definitely been a lot of education in a short amount of time. I'm doing a lot of Zoom meetings and just going to educational courses online to try to figure out how everything's working. And it's been a great experience so far. I'm involved in lots of different volunteer projects like the Arts Council and the Economic Development and so many different things. I really love being involved in my community and hearing what other people have to say and how I can make the select board kind of a more welcoming place, people that want to get involved and learn more about how government works and how they can contribute and how they can get a better understanding to improve their own life so that they know how everything works. So I think that would be, sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
Nope, that's fine.
Yeah.
James, at this point, you're an appointed select board member,
I'm appointed select board member.
but in the
Yep.
past, you've been an elected select board member.
I was, yeah. I held the elected position for 5 years.
Yeah.
Was chair and vice chair a few times on that. And then I decided to step down when my term was up. And there was a lot of long-term select board members on there. We had a good, solid, knowledgeable board. And then all of a sudden, for various reasons, the board turned over. And I was asked by several people to put my name in to come back and help out with the board. So I did, and that's how I'm back there now on the board. And I ended up taking over chair. I was asked to take over chair of the board from my previous history of being on the board.
That's right. Give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, no, that's what I was just going to say. So I've born and raised here in Swanton, lived there all my life. Lived in Swanton, my wife and 2 kids. Done various things through the community. I work pretty much through, I'm self-employed, so I work around the community quite often. And and like I said, I've been on the board. This will be finished out my 6th term now. And it takes a lot of knowledge to be a board member, and it's not a simple task. There's a lot involved in it. I think a lot has to do with I run my own business, so I'm very familiar with how a business runs. A new member, I tell people, somebody new on the board, it's going to take you at least a year just to figure it out. It's not a simple thing. There's a lot to it.
Pretty significant, I mean, very significant turnover on the board, I guess,
Yes.
in recent years. Any particular reasons for what's going on?
Various things. People's jobs took them that they couldn't do it anymore, and some people moved out of town. So there's several different factors. The COVID had to do with some of it too. That people didn't feel comfortable coming to the meeting anymore. That had a lot to do with it too. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Biggest challenge, any one thing jumping into your mind, biggest challenge the town's facing as we head into 2021?
Biggest challenge, of course, we just went through budget season, and now we're into, of course, town meeting day coming up. Just trying to make sure all our budgets are level funded, if not, as close as we could get.
I assume you support all the articles on the warning?
Support all the articles. I actually have them here if you want to hear about them. But
nothing really unusual. Obviously, the highway, police, fire, general fund
actually,
budgets.
the highway was down. It wasn't any increase in the budget. The general budget is to a 2.61% decrease, and the highway is 0.40 increase, which wasn't directly from the highway, but there's also fire and police, and the library goes under the highway budget. Kind of funny how it works that way, but and that couple of those were increased. The police budget was like 5.23% increase on that, so it caused it to go up a little bit. But
Heather, yourself, are you supporting all the articles on the warning?
Yes.
Was that unanimous on the select board? Was there any
It was,
opposition to
yeah.
any of the
It was,
articles? Do you
yep.
recall or no?
It was unanimous.
Unanimous?
It's pretty standard stuff. I was really impressed with, we requested that we could keep the budget as low as possible, level fund it, and, everybody came to us with really great numbers, and people were working together as a community to keep the taxes low and to look out for everybody at this trying time. So I was really grateful for how many people worked really hard to, even the town clerk, she did a great job trying to find different ways to save us some money so that we could have a better budget for everyone.
Yeah. Biggest challenge, any one issue as you see Swanton's biggest challenge as we head further into 2021? Any particular issue come to mind?
I wouldn't say a challenge, but I would say a benefit that I'm looking forward to is we have the meetings on Zoom, and I think that's such an amazing opportunity to get people involved in listening to the meetings. And of course, we're teamwork with the Northwest Access Television, who also puts the Zooms onto the YouTube so people can watch them at any time. And I can't tell you how wonderful that's been, because so many people have been able to chime in that have children, that have busy schedules, and they're able to either chime in that day or they can watch it later. And people are having more opportunities to get involved and to just be informed about how things proceed in our community. And
The board itself, you have been meeting in person?
three of the members have been meeting in person, and then, and usually four of them, and then I Zoom in.
Okay.
So
Do you think that has increased kind of participation, or at least people
I've
paying
noticed
attention?
a big increase, and I think it's even snowballing at this point where even more people know that there's an opportunity, so they're planning to go to it and get involved that way, whereas before their schedule, restrict them. I personally have children of my own. It's great for me because we're all home, we're all safe, and I can just Zoom in on the phone call, and my kids can, hang out downstairs, and, it's wonderful. Yep.
Now, Elizabeth, certainly an issue getting some attention, I think some more recently, proposed expansion of the Franklin County State Airport, of course, just over the Swanton line in Highgate, but Swanton certainly has key involvement with that, I guess, with extending water and sewer lines. Has that been an issue you've been dealing with to some extent?
I have, mainly through working for Tim
Yeah.
at FCIDC.
FCIDC?
Yeah.
Sound like a good initiative to you?
It is. We're looking forward to the water sewer. Not only will it bring additional revenue into the village through the water sewer, but The airport expansion itself looks like it's moving forward. So that's, I think there will be some issues, people are rightly worried about noise. It's not going to take, jets, we know that, but it will allow an opportunity maybe to get FedEx, UPS, small planes in there and open up. Border Patrol is very interested in the expansion, so I think for economic, and then we have some development looking to happen in the area. So for the region, it's a great opportunity.
Sure. We're not talking big jets or
No.
anything here.
No.
Well, it's funny, you folks may have heard the comment from, I think it's one of the mayoral candidates in Burlington, Ali Zhang, I think, on the city council. But I guess when he was asked at some point about F-35s, kind of a controversial issue among some people in the Burlington area, said, well, I support them, but I think they should go to another airport. And of course, he's being asked, gee, Ali, not a lot of big airports in Vermont, but I guess he presumably wasn't thinking Franklin County State Airport, I guess.
No.
Interesting. So that looks like that project, looks like that's moving ahead?
That is, we have a meeting next week to kind of get up to speed on it, because Heidi's done a wonderful job in Highgate of getting funds.
Heidi Bridgeville, the
Yeah.
town administrator in Highgate?
It's just it's multi-million-dollar project, so finding those funds and putting them together is going to take some time.
Interesting. So it looks like there's some movement to that. You feel your biggest job as Economic Development Coordinator is to just try to hang on to the jobs we have around here, or is there some, don't hear a lot of talk about new industry coming to town these days, but is that always, and of course your FCIDC role comes into play too. Is it kind of a mixture of those two, or is it more just trying to keep what's here?
It's both.
Yeah.
I think, the leader of Apparator has been in the news with the $1 million that we were able to secure for them for working capital to keep, 100-plus-year-old business in Swanton and the 58 jobs that are there. We were actually we've been meeting with some folks who are looking to bring some investment into the Swanton Highgate area. And we're meeting next week. Next week's a busy week. To kind of think of some projects and then prioritize them, because there are some opportunities for investors in the area. And, again, working with Tim, our biggest issue is that people want they want buildings that are here with all the permits in place, and they just want to come in and put up their manufacturing facility. We don't have them.
So there are no kind of vacant spec buildings at this point? You just don't really have anything?
No, and that's, in order to qualify for funding, you have to have somebody willing to come in, but it's the chicken or the egg. So we're constantly fighting that battle, but that's probably the biggest challenge, is getting buildings up for people because people are looking to move out of Chittenden County.
Yeah.
They're looking to come get a foothold from Canada into the U.S. And Franklin County is perfectly positioned in Swanton and Highgate, probably more so than a lot of other places, being right on 89.
Right.
It's just, there's some Act 250. I know that it gets a lot of criticism, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
We have a lot of wetlands. And so a lot of it's man-made, but it doesn't matter. A wetlands is a wetlands. So that is a struggle for economic development, too.
James, the town issue, boy, you mentioned off the air, the town's been trying to sell the land, the former town garage land near the elementary
4th Street
school
property.
for what, 9 years?
Yep.
And there's a tentative sale at this point?
Yep, we have a tentative contract right now on the property. The property's been, 2013, the voters approved to build the new town garage. And part of that deal was, if they built the new garage, they had to sell, we sold a piece of property years ago that was on Robin Hood Drive, and then we had to sell the 4th Street property to pay down the debt. That was what the voters approved back then. It's been at least 3 different realtors we had over the years tried to sell it. We've tried 3 or 4 times on our own, and we finally had someone come along and made us an offer that was reasonable, we felt. There's some opposition now because some people think we should save it for recreational use.
Or
we'll
for
find-
school parking, I'm hearing some people think it'd be a nice parking area for the rec path or for the school.
Yeah, the rec path, they got some other ideas, you know. The property was offered to the school a few years back, and they
Really?
weren't interested, so.
No interest?
No interest in buying it, because that's what we thought, it would be more parking for them, they never have enough parking.
Yeah.
They weren't interested in entertaining it, so.
So this sounds like a good, you're pleased there's finally some movement here?
Yep.
Yeah. And Heather, your thoughts? Does this look like a good deal for the town?
And I also want to mention that I think what's great is we're going to be transparent about this at the next meeting, and we'll be able to disclose all the information wrapped around the purchase of this, or the sale of this property.
Okay.
So I think that'll be a good time for people to tune in and hear more about what's going on with that.
And that next meeting is,
It's next Tuesday.
okay, I should note, we're taping, timing may be a little off, but we're taping this show on, again, Thursday, February 11th.
Yep.
So anyway, so about to be a
And
lot
then-
more information about
Right, and then
this.
people can go right onto YouTube
Yeah.
after it's posted too, and they can get informed and learn more about the project.
Yeah. Swanton Village-Town relations, how do you feel, or Village-Town relations? I know the village trustees and town select board used to meet, I think, periodically. I suspect the
Yeah.
pandemic may have gotten in the way of that, but how are relations? Are they as good, do you think, as they should be, or?
I personally love both of them because I've recorded both the town and village for several years, so I know how both of them work, and I enjoy both meetings. They're a little bit different because the village is more about utilities and than ours is, because we don't have, the same things that they do. But I enjoy both of them, and I think we collaborate really well. Oftentimes, we share equipment and stuff like that, or help each other out on different projects. And there is definitely unity between the two, so I like that a lot. And, that's what community is.
I know when I interview village officials, village trustees, I'll at least sometimes ask them about any talk of a merger, and they pretty much say, Richard, you're the only one who ever asked us about that. But in other interviews with Swanton folks, I'm hearing some say, that issue does come up. You
It's
think
getting more
is that-
popular. A
Yeah.
lot of people have been
Really?
bringing that up and emailing at least me about that.
Huh.
And
Does that sound like it's something worth looking into at least?
I don't have enough information on it.
Okay.
There is a packet that's hundreds of pages long, maybe 200 pages long. I was sent an email of it, and I promised that I would look through it. So I certainly will inform myself about it, but I'd really have to look through it before I can make a statement about that.
Yeah, fair enough. James, what about it? Is there some talk about a merger out there?
I've heard it around a few times. I think it was about 10 years ago, there was a study done,
Yeah.
whether it was feasible or not. I don't know all the ins and outs of what
Yeah.
was found, but it never went anywhere.
Does it sound like something that might possibly should be pursued again, or are you not too interested
It
in
may
that?
come up again. I haven't heard a lot of talk
Yeah.
about it. I mean, I hear every now and then someone talks about it, but
Yeah. Doesn't
there's a
sound
lot,
like not a burning
there's a
issue.
lot involved. The village has a lot more.
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to say they have a lot more, but they do. Village has more than the town does with their electric and their water and their sewer, and, and then we have more in the highway side probably than they do.
right.
Obviously with more roads that we have to maintain. But you were talking about the joint meetings, yeah. We used to do them, sometimes it's quarterly, but at
Quarterly.
least a couple times a year we meet. But
Yeah.
we haven't met in a while. It's usually only if there's an issue we need to have a meeting on. That's kind of the way we always made it,
Yeah.
the meeting, if we had something we had to work together on.
You feel relations between the town and village are decent?
I think they're good. We
Yeah.
always work well together. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Swanton Village Police Department for a number of years has been covering Swanton
Yep.
Town. I think before that, I can only assume the Sheriff's Department had been doing
It
it
was back then.
some years
Yep.
ago. Sheriff's
Yep.
Department, of course, got a big boost from their point of view. They've got the contract in St. Albans Town starting July 1st, supplanting St. Albans City PD. You happy with Swanton Village PD?
Yep.
I assume the Sheriff Lanchman,
Yep.
might go after the town. If he did, I assume you'd take a look at what he's
Yeah,
proposing.
yeah. Who knows? The contract comes up the end of March, so.
Oh, is that right?
We have 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have contract with the Swamp PD right now.
Yeah. So
but,
you're pretty satisfied with
Yep,
that?
we meet with the chief once a month and gives us a report what they've done and stops and calls and monitor, if we have a problem area, we can tell them to,
Yeah.
put a little more pressure on that area.
Yeah.
But no, we work well together. If we have something during the day we need, because they cover mostly evening time for us,
Yeah.
they'll go and take care of the issue usually. But no, we have a good working relationship with them.
Yeah. Heather, you pretty comfortable, pretty satisfied with Swanton Village PD covering the town?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I've had phone conversations with Chief Stell, and he's very knowledgeable about stuff, and he's always open to checking out a different area. I've had people complain to me about different roads that have a lot of high speeds that are being used, and they will go and they have a grant funding that will give them an opportunity to do that at no cost to the taxpayers that they're still using. So that's a wonderful thing too. And yeah, they do good.
Yeah. Elizabeth, boy, the border has been closed for, of course, about a year now. And I'm not sure a lot of people are holding their breath on the border reopening anytime soon. How much of an impact? Of course, Franklin County, obviously a border county. Has that had a particularly negative effect on just economic development initiatives?
It has. It's interesting because Swanton gets, on average, daily more than 10,000 vehicles that travel through, average daily.
And I'm hearing about 16, 17, 18% trucks, something like that?
Last I heard it was 13, but it's a
13 in the
large number.
teens.
Yeah.
Wow.
The truck traffic hasn't necessarily slowed down, but you can definitely tell commuter traffic has slowed down because of the crossing. I know that some restaurants are feeling the pinch with the traffic that's not coming through. Our hope is that, I guess they're going month to month for some reason.
They seem to go month to month, but it sure sounds like it's not opening up anytime soon.
I don't know why they don't just say May or June. We know it's going to be May or June before the border opens unless something really crazy happens. But, with a couple of different strains now, who knows? Now they're talking about double masking and the whole thing, so clearly it's going to remain an issue for a while. You do still see some folks from Canada coming down, and you can see it in the parking lots and everything, and you just have to hope that everybody is socially distancing and quarantining as they can. But it is definitely an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
And we have tried through myself working with the Swanton Enhancement Project to promote buying local, to kind of help pick up some of that slack the best that we can.
Yeah.
And we had our first initiative, which was grant funded. We passed out $500 to $20 gift cards. They were free. And we anticipated taking about 2 days to distribute the cards, and they were gone in less than a day.
Wow.
And we had 43 businesses that signed up. Some people go, I didn't know you had 43 businesses in Swanton. We do.
You'd probably take another restaurant or two, ideally, huh?
We very much like the ones that we have, but there is a gap, for sure. But we got back 456 of the 500 cards, so we
Really?
thought that was a fabulous return. And they were used locally. We didn't specifically leave out like Hannaford and Dollar General as bigger chain stores because we didn't want to tell somebody if you needed to, you can't buy groceries.
Yeah.
So we think that was really successful.
How's the Ace Hardware? That was certainly a big issue. A lot of people pretty excited about a hardware store coming downtown. Has that had a pretty good impact? How's that fared?
It is slow this time. I actually just talked to Gordon, I guess, earlier this week, and it is slow, but January, February, March are always slow.
Yeah.
He didn't get to do the grand opening the way he wanted to because of COVID, but they were designated an essential business, so all the hardware stores were able to open, and he's doing better than he expected. So I think he's well positioned, and it looks great. And I think when we get or compare ourselves or get compared a little bit to St. Albans, because I think we're like 5 years behind them, what they've done. It just takes a couple of projects they had like the St. Albans house that really kind of got them started, and then the ACE, and now you have Congress and Maine, and you have all the streetscaping work that they did.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we are now. With the ACE hardware was kind of, it took, I don't want to say an eyesore because that's a bit harsh, but it took not the best looking piece of property in downtown, and it really revitalized it. And you see a huge push to get a lot of other things done. So I think you'll see some of that work continuing in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Heather, the art wall issue became a pretty huge controversy there. Is that likely to come back? What do you see the future of the art wall? Do you think that can come back without the controversy, or any thoughts on that issue?
So what's the good news is there's a group within the Swanton Arts Council called SPAN, Swanton Public Art Network.
Yeah.
And they are working to have guidelines and all kinds of other things put in place so we don't have a similar situation. And they called it the Art Network because they wanted to incorporate more than just the art walls. They wanted to have opportunities for sculptures and other, kinetic sculptures and different items that they could use instead of just the art walls. And so there's a task force within the Arts Council that's working really hard. They spend so many hours, I lost track, but they meet often to work out how to make a feasible plan that they can bring. And they came to the last select board meeting, and they are positively, accepted. And, yeah.
James, you think, again, the art wall, a controversy, pretty significant controversy, you think that can maybe not come back and come back in a more peaceful form, so to speak?
Hopefully it comes back in a more peaceful form. They, like Heather said, the folks came to our last meeting. They were supposed to forward us some paperwork on what their plan was and stuff. I haven't seen that yet, but to be glad to look at what their plan scheme is of how it will be run in what they're going to regulate, the signs, beyond the signs. Before the signs were on village property, so we'll have to see where they're planning to. They like to put the new signs up, and look at the options. What best suits Swanton.
Yeah. You're road commissioner for the select board?
Yep.
Well, Andy Hope, I'm a former, know some of the candidates in other races are Hog Island, West Swanton residents. I lived out there for about 5 years, and Route 78. Have you any hope? I guess it's on the, it's somewhere on the Agency of Transportation's list, but boy, it just seems like slow going.
Turtle space, that's turtle speed. I heard so many times they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and I'd be lucky probably by the time we're done if they actually pave the road out there, but I don't know. I can't remember the last, there was a meeting quite a while back about where I was, but I think it's still another 3 to 5 years before they do anything.
It was,
Elizabeth, jump
well,
in.
mainly because I'm on the Regional Planning's Transportation Advisory Committee, and Joel Clark, who was previous chair and was road commissioner, he had asked for an update. So we did get an update from VTrans. And he said, you wouldn't know it, but they've done a lot of environmental work. They've done a lot of rights-of-way work. So it's moving forward behind the scenes, not necessarily quickly, but they do expect, I think you actually hit it, like 3 to 5 years, we may see some physical changes on that road. But they've kind of had to redo some, any project that big. The other thing is we need to be careful what we wish for, because traffic, when they actually do start doing the paving project, is going to be fun.
Yeah. Interesting. Heather, any thoughts on Route 78? Hopefully at some point we'll see some improvements perhaps.
It's tough to wait, and but the state right now has a lot of things that they're doing right now, and it's important to be patient and just try to be understanding that we're all struggling here and we're trying to do our best. So it is hard to be patient though, and especially when it is a challenge when you're driving, so.
Yeah, I've got some pretty bad memories of my years out there, just travel on Route 78 was. Again, campaigning again, you and James running for a 2-year term. I got to think this campaign's been different than any in the past, just with the pandemic. How are you going about campaigning?
Yeah, it's tricky because last year I went door to door
Really?
and
Not
just
doing that now.
can't really do that right now. So, I mean, just social media and putting up signs is all you can really do right now, going on Northwest Access TV. Yeah, fewer opportunities for sure, but we didn't need 30 signatures this year, so.
You just had to, just
that
your
was,
own.
I think that's great. It gave a lot of opportunities to
Yeah.
people that wouldn't normally do it, knowing they'd be intimidated by knocking on doors or, so it was great.
James, a different campaign, again, not doing much door-to-door, I would
Definitely a
guess.
different campaign. I put out 50 signs, and we mailed out 4,100 postcards to every resident in Swanton.
In fact,
Just-
speaking of which, I've seen your postcard, and it sounds like you're kind of running as a team with Ed
Yeah, I
White.
did, yeah, me and that team, because it's not cheap. It was expensive. And, this is a high-paying job, the select board, so.
You folks do get paid something if you're.
Yeah, there's a stipend.
You're
but
doing better, as I probably
covers
don't
your
have
gas.
to tell you, than the St. Albans City Council
Yeah.
and the mayor of St. Albans, who perhaps to the surprise of some folks makes nothing. The city council and St. Albans mayor get nothing. They used to
Yeah.
get $10 a month, and I guess somebody figured that was too much.
Oh, my God, that's
Anyway,
crazy.
But not a lot of bucks.
But back to the campaign, just a lot of phone calls, and people call me, call people to, obviously you can't go door to door. It's just not the right thing, not safe. I've talked to a lot of people called me, a lot of support.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, so.
Yeah. This is maybe out of the blue, you don't have to do this, but Heather, is there one particular question you'd like to ask your opponent, Mr. Guilmette? Nothing you have to do, just kind
yeah.
of throwing that out? I meant to mention that before the show, and I didn't think of it, sorry about that. Or think about it if you want, give it some thought and do it later if you want. But anything come to mind?
I guess, how do you see the select board moving forward? How would you like it to just kind of, how do you see it moving forward?
How do I see the select board moving forward?
Yeah, would you make changes or would you keep it the same or?
I don't think I'd make changes, unless we needed to. There's several other things we're working on. But I think it's run well now. I know the Zoom has helped a lot more with people to be able to Zoom into the meeting. Makes it better for the people in the community, the public
Do you
taxpayers.
think that has gotten more people watching?
Yeah, it seems to be, well, if you've got 5 people Zooming and you have a normal meeting, nobody shows up to it, so, at least you got a few people that are getting information. There's several different things. The biggest thing is the challenge of the select board is it's always about the dollar, so it's about your tax dollar to make sure we're spending it as best we can and keep the tax rate as low as we can. And that's always that's what I have in my heart and interest, in it. The best for the taxpayers. I don't want to pay more taxes than anybody else does. Yeah.
And again, for the record, I know municipal officials kind of like to throw this out on one's tax bill, property tax bill. A good 3/4, if not a little more than that, is on the school side, with 1/4, perhaps even a little less on the municipal side. James, any question you'd like to throw at Heather?
I have a question, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but Heather had a seat on the select board. She gave up her seat on the select board that she currently has to run against me.
Mm-hmm.
What was your purpose behind that?
I think, first there was another individual, Earl Fournier, and he's a really stand-up guy, and he had the 3-year position, and I think you and I have different ways of how we go about things. I know our daughters are friends, and I think it's really just politics. I have a different view of what I want Swanton to become, and you have a different view about what you want Swanton to become. And I think that's just a difference of opinion. So that's all. No hurt feelings or, malice, just different opinions.
Good enough.
Elizabeth, I think you mentioned Swanton Enhancement Project. That goes back a number of years. And I know there were some task forces formed. Is that still generating some interest? That sounded like a pretty positive
I think so.
development for the community.
We have, I think we're at 4 task forces. I've honestly lost track. I'm active on the, interestingly enough, the Economic Development Task Force. We also have a Healthy Communities Task Force that's around walking and biking, substance use disorder. So it covers a wide variety. We have a beautification task force that's responsible for flowers and plantings in the park and along Swanton. And I'm sure I'm forgetting one, and I will get in deep trouble. But those are the ones that come to mind right off the bat. Debbie Winters and Betsy Fournier are co-chairs, and they bring a lot of energy. The pandemic has. It's hard to meet, and it's hard to determine what activities you want to do. We weren't able, Darcy, through the Arts Council, has done the Art Spectacular. We weren't able to do that this year.
Right.
We were going to have our third annual community-wide yard sale. We didn't feel like we could do that in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So knowing what events to have versus not have has been a challenge, but I think this year we'll do more because life has to pick up at some point, just responsibly, and just how do we navigate all the guidance to get some of these things done. It's starting to be time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James, Lake Champlain water quality issues, not maybe these days getting so much attention. I guess finally a funding source I think was kind of nailed down, but of course Missisquoi Bay for years seemed to have supplanted St. Albans Bay as being kind of the poster child for lake water quality problems. I think Lake Carmine might have jumped ahead of Missisquoi Bay, but is that an issue that gets much attention from the
It has
select
this
board?
year, yeah. We've heard a lot from the folks on Macomb Shore about the quality of water.
Of course, the Macomb Shore situation got a lot of attention.
It did this year.
And boy, we've got a very
Very dry year, so it made it twice as bad, I think, than it normally is, from what I get from the people I've talked to that live down there.
Yeah.
As they told us from the water, the state, when they came to one of our meetings, that it's not going to be fixed overnight. It's, bottom line, it comes to water, the runoff in the lake is causing this pollution. The only way to really cure it is what they say is you got to stop the runoff. So it's going to take a long time just to cure that problem.
Yeah.
That they tell us is causing it. It's not like you can go down there and dredge a lake and clean it out and make it go away. It doesn't work that easy.
We've got a very low lake level at this point, which is
Very.
someone who
I've
kayaks
never
on the
seen
lake
that.
of concern to me. I'm just really concerned, boy, if the lake doesn't come up next summer for boaters, whatever, get upset at a low lake, boy, next summer could be pretty tough. Hopefully things will change between now and then.
Well,
Yeah.
we haven't had the winter either, so you're not getting the snow melt.
Yeah,
No.
of course, it might be a little misleading with an ice cover. I mean, I checked the level, it's like 94, but it's under 95 feet, which I guess might be a bit misleading with ice and a pretty good maybe snow cover, but that's now a concern to me. Heather, is that an issue that you've paid much attention to?
Well, yeah, I've got some people called me on the telephone and voiced their concerns about the lake levels, and it's challenging because there's only so much we can do, but it's also encouraging because it may not appear that we're doing anything on the select board, but there's all kinds of other things. People are working in the background off camera, and they are working hard to address the problem. So there was some, meetups and other things that are happening, and of course we give money towards it every year to try to fix the situation. So things are happening, and we do listen to these concerns. At least I do listen to the concerns, and I do really care about what people, their concerns are, and I want to try helping them out. People don't realize that sometimes it takes a long time to fix a problem. So, especially with the lake, like James was saying, that's a long ordeal to get that sorted.
Yeah, for sure. Elizabeth, does that Lake Champlain water quality issues, does that come under your purview at all?
The only thing I try to do is I get a lot of information on various grant and funding sources, so if there's something that looks interesting that may help, then I'll forward that along. But luckily, that is one thing I'm not involved in.
Probably have enough things to deal with, I think.
Yeah, I got enough going on, yeah.
James, Swanton Wind, that was a real hot issue for some years back, and I guess what they
Sure
ended up
was.
withdrawing their application. Is that But I guess as I'm trying to recall that, I guess it was, they could bring it back at some point, but have you heard a word about Swanton Wind in recent years?
I haven't heard a thing.
It was strong. It seemed like there was just very strong opposition in
Yeah,
Swanton to
it wasn't only just Swanton, it was Fairfield, St.
Right.
Albans.
Right.
Everybody was going to be affected by it.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted it. And yeah, they could come back sometime and apply for the same thing again.
But nothing, haven't heard of?
No, haven't heard anything in a couple of years
Yeah.
yet. But that
Heather,
was
were you not a big fan of the Swanton Wind project either?
I remember recording that, and that was a big to-do. A lot of people came in from
Yeah.
everywhere to attend the meetings. I think we had, 30 or 40 people at that
Oh,
meeting?
probably. It was packed,
It was
yeah.
wild, and a
Yeah.
lot of people were affected by it. People, sound, and I think the hardest part about that was that the electricity wasn't going to benefit our community.
Good point.
Because we have 100% renewable electricity at Swanton Electric. So, and we can make that all day and night. So it was to add another, renewable energy that wasn't going to be utilized here in our community. It didn't make much sense for the project. So, I mean, I could see the good of it, but I could also see that how it would affect our community in a negative way, so.
Are there any solar, even small, any solar farms in Swanton, James? Anybody ever get any applications for that or anything?
not that I know of in Swanton. There's some in Sheldon, there's some in St. Albans.
Yeah,
I can't think of any off the top of my head
yeah.
that are any size, if there is any. Yeah.
The Buczkowski Valley National Wildlife Refuge, great place, love the place. Does the town do you get anything? You get any pilot payment in lieu of taxes? Do you get anything?
There is a little bit. It's
Not
not very
much.
much money. I can't remember. I probably could find it in the book.
But
yeah,
not much.
a few $1,000s. It's
Yeah.
like, I think it may be 3,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, do you see that as still a pretty nice resource for the area?
It seems to be. It's an attraction. A lot of people like it,
Yeah.
And it's been good for the people in the COVID. It's still something they could do, get out in the fresh air and
Yeah,
go to their, obviously the building wasn't open, but they could see use the trails and stuff.
yeah.
That's one area that it's kind of on the list, that how do we build a better relationship? How do we make better use of them as an asset?
Yeah.
They're close enough, but it's not that simple. Nothing, it seems, ever to be. But
Nothing's
how do
too
we
simple.
market the fact that they're right there? And then, by the same token, get some of those visitors into the downtown it's kind of one of those things that's always on the list. It just never quite gets to the top of the list.
Yeah.
But it's definitely an asset that we need to take advantage of.
Have you seen the refuge? Is that a pretty nice asset for the town of Swanton?
Yeah, it's a great property. But while we're talking about
Yeah.
amenities in our community, I would like to mention that, of course, we have the Fit and Healthy Walking Trail.
That was on
That's
my next
also,
question.
yeah, that's in the town as well, and people have been really utilizing that a lot this year. And we did recently, we did some repairs on the railings
Yeah,
over
I'm
by
out
the
there
bridge.
usually about once a week or so, but of course that'll be the western terminus of the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail,
Yeah.
which the governor is giving some attention. I think there was a fair amount of work done in the town. I know in Highgate, it was, I'm trying to think where, there's a bit in the town, I know the village part of the Fit and
We
Healthy.
have 1
rec
mile.
Little,
Yeah.
no, the Mile Valley Rail Trail. There's a little small section of what they just did is in Swanton, and the
Small
rest went up
section.
through the Highgate.
Okay.
They, I forget how many millions they put into it, but upgrading it so the snowmobilers can use it and stuff.
Okay.
And then people can walk on it too, obviously.
Yeah,
It's supposed to go, well, right now it goes all the way through to Sheldon to the regular rail trail.
yeah.
When it's done, I believe it's going to connect to St. Johnsbury.
Yeah, we're talking Swanton to St. Jay, about 93 miles, which would seem to
Yeah.
be
The
pretty.
longest route in New England.
Yeah.
Yeah, I walk on the trail in the Cambridge area. They fixed up a section in Cambridge, but it's another seemingly pretty nice asset.
Yeah, we were excited. We get 70 to 80 people on that trail daily.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Betsy Fournier's working to getting a sign put up, so there's some wayfinding involved. When you're on the rail trail, you'll be able to locate other things going on in the community.
No, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of Swanton Rec, is there a master plan? Is Betsy looking at a master plan for Swanton Rec? Are we talking maybe some new initiatives, Heather, do you know, for
That's a
Swanton
good
Recreation?
question for Nicole Draper, because she works for the Swanton Rec.
Gotcha. James, does that mean
I
any?
can touch on that. They are looking at a master plan that the rec is,
Yeah.
for hopefully a community facility in the future is what they're working on. That's their plans. Now, the rec has been putting a little money away every year to have money to put towards that someday. I'll be honest, the community needs Swanton needs a community center. They don't have, especially the rec, they do a lot of programs at the rec with the children, and now when they're using the garage they have right now because they still have the space.
Yeah.
They could utilize that very well with the kids in Swanton. Indoor sports, they don't have enough, there's not enough gyms, and there's not enough space. But we have to figure out how we can do that, not the burden to the taxpayers either. But definitely, it would be a good thing for the community.
Well, they do have a decent amount of property there.
There is,
So
yeah.
they could build there. But that was one of also the things that they were hoping for the community center to be on that 4th Street property. So that was part of the, disappointment
Yeah.
with
But
the
we-
sale of it.
But we looked at that with the 4th Street property, the community center. It's barely an acre of land. By the time you put a building on it, you wouldn't have any parking left. That was the biggest issue with that. And then if you ever wanted to expand, there's nowhere to expand. That's the biggest challenge with that piece of property. And the other thing is, it's not centralized with the rec. The community center would be better if it could be right there at the rec field with the ball fields and everything, all in one central location. So if you got something going on at the community center, you could use the ball field and the building at the same time, whatever. I just think it would go hand in hand.
Yeah. Elizabeth, it sounds like there's just a lot of things you're working on all the time. With a wish list, or 2021, is there one kind of your bigger issues you're dealing with you'd love to nail down this year, or anything that's of the kind of bigger issues that's close to kind of fruition or putting to bed?
Riviera Hotel,
No, the Riv.
the Riv,
I
yes.
hate to tell you, my memory of the Riv, I'm probably going back to circa
It's,
1980 when there was a murder there, and I can remember going in with John Edwards and the Vermont State Police, barracks commander leading out the suspect, but that's maybe my last memory of the Riv.
Yeah, it's-
Hopefully many people have a lot better memories than that.
I've seen some pictures in its heyday, and, it's going to, the plan is to bring the building down.
Yeah,
And it's going to be one of those, we celebrate but feel sad at the same time, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of memories.
what
in
is that
building.
date? Do you know what that building dates to? It's been around for a while.
Something happened in 1912, that number's,
It's when
Dates.
when Fenway Park opened, when the Titanic went down. but
well, yeah,
they did the
a
Riv
lot of
too,
things
huh?
happened, yeah. And I'm excited to get the building down, just because it will show progress.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have to remember that that's, people have really fond memories,
Yeah.
and to be cognizant of that. But
Maybe a local historical marker or something?
something, I would actually love to see, and there's the village, and we're still trying to figure out how we're going to handle the property going forward. But if it was built to look something very similar, because I think they are looking at housing as being definitely one aspect, mixed use with housing. If it looked much the same, or at least have the name or something to recognize
Yeah.
what was there, I think would be really important.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Down to about 4 minutes. Heather, any issue you want to take a minute or so on that I haven't asked you about? Anything you want to talk about? Or anything else?
Not really. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to spend the last year learning more about the Selectboard and how local government works. And I've been enjoying being able to share my knowledge with other people and just get more people actively involved. And so I'm grateful for that. It has been a little weird with the pandemic and not being able to go out and do as much stuff, but I'm hoping that will change soon, and we'll be able to really do more things. One of my big plans was, before the COVID hit, was I thought it'd be cool to have like a lemonade stand, but except it was come talk to your local representative from your community and learn more about what's going on, and just have a more social interaction with people instead of having people come to the meetings and, in an uncomfortable environment for them, and just make it easier to learn about how things go and, so get more people involved. So hopefully that will happen in the future.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get back to some public gatherings at some point later in 2021, hopefully, huh?
Yep, absolutely.
James, any issue you want to touch on briefly that we haven't talked about?
Nothing particular.
Anything you're looking at for the legislature? Of course, you have a new legislator, Bob
Yeah.
Norris, the former sheriff,
Yeah.
succeeding Mariana Gamache with Brian Savage, the veteran,
Yeah.
still there. Any particular hopes for the town from the Vermont legislature?
Well, we just got an email tonight. The highway gets funds from the state every year to do road improvements, and it
Yeah.
looked like, I looked at it quickly, that there wasn't any money. Now it looks like this year they might be putting some money in the funds. So we do large projects. That we just did one on South River Street a year or so ago. It was almost $160,000 project with a culvert and paving. And it really helps the town and the taxpayers that's money from the state. It didn't have to come from the taxpayers, physically I should say, in Swanton. But it's really nice work, great. But I lost my train of thought, sorry. I look forward to continuing to serve the people on the by being on the select board of Swanton. And I'm always here. Anybody wants to call me with any concerns, they can always call me. My phone's always on. And I'd be happy to talk about it.
Elizabeth, any last thoughts here in half a minute or so?
No, there's a lot of things going on. It's an exciting time to be in Swanton, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. I work for James and for Heather, so it's been an interesting year, and we look forward to 2021 being just as interesting, maybe in a more positive way.
Heather, do you think the state, I've asked you this before, has the state, do you think, been pretty helpful, how they've dealt with the pandemic, but do you feel you can look to state government as a select board member and get some help from the legislature or state officials? Are they reasonably responsive?
I think so. I think they're doing a really good job with everything, and stay home, stay safe, and wear masks. And I've done the best I can to follow the governor's requests. And it is challenging to not being able to see your friends and not being able to, have chats out in the grocery store, but I think it's worth it in the end because we are making a safer community. And but I want to follow up on what James said. If anybody wants to reach out, you can call me and you can find me on social media. I want to hear from you however is comfortable for you, and I'm certainly open to listening all the time. I really enjoy hearing from people in the community.
Very good. Thanks to Heather Buczkowski and James Guilmette, select board members running against each other for a 2-year term. And thanks to Elizabeth Nance, the Swanton's Economic Development Coordinator. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks to producer Roger. Thanks for watching us on Northwest Access TV. See ya.